Inspire, empower, educate. Inspire, time to shine. Empower, time to shine. Educate, time to shine. Time to elevate one's mind.
Yes, yes, yes. Welcome. It's time to rise, time to shine, time to elevate your mind. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the TPLC Educational Talk Show. And I am your co-host, Melenie Hibbert from the Primary Learning Centre, alongside
Danny Thompson, Danny T of evolvingcreatives.com. Pleased to be here.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So glad for you to come and join us again today. I'm hoping that you've had a wonderful Christmas and looking forward to the new year that's in front of us.
And having a wonderful Kwanzaa.
Yes, it's been a blessing. It's been a wonderful time. And we've actually been really fortunate this Christmas because we have a wonderful, amazing woman as a guest here with us today. I'm going to let her introduce herself and tell you all about where she is and who she is and where she comes from.
Okay, my name is Maxine Eldemire and I'm coming from the Cayman Islands. I'm originally from Jamaica. I've been teaching for 24 years in the Cayman Islands.
Wow. Thank you for thank you for joining us on our show, Maxine. So you're over here on Christmas holiday?
Yes, my first visiting with my family. My mom and my brothers and sister lives in the UK, but as I often said, I was born on the other side of the Atlantic, so I stay there.
So how you finding London?
Wow, very cool. I wondered what motivated West Indians to really come here. You know?
We all ask that question. Whenever we from here go to holiday in the Caribbean, we do ask ourselves, how hard must it have been for them to pick up and come over here into this coldness? But
it's all a part of thinking that it's, the grass is greener on the other side.
True.
And failing to make use of the resources that they have there, thinking that it will be better. And when they came here, they just thought, okay, we have to make it before we go back. Mm-hmm. And so many of them stayed, and looking forward to the day when they could retire and return to Jamaica. So I think that is what that hope and that strength, that inner strength, I think they look back and said, okay, my ancestors made it through slavery, I can make it through anything.
True.
And I think that inner and their culture within them that motivated them and strengthened them to stay.
Okay. So you're a teacher with 25 years experience in the Caribbean?
No, 36 years.
So
wow, 36
I taught for 12 years in Jamaica. I taught history in Jamaica for 12 years before I went to the Cayman Islands for 24 now. So I'm 36 years old.
Okay, because I'd like you to take us through education in the Caribbean, because most of us over here, we don't know the education system in the Caribbean. We know very little about it. And we do have this, I don't know whether it's an English arrogance or what have you. England likes to project itself as having the best education system in the world. I know that there are, for example, Afro-Caribbean parents born here of Caribbean parents who have sent their children
back to Jamaica. Yes.
Yeah, and I would say that they did that on the premise that education in Jamaica was better than here. And often what you'd find is that we have the notion that if our child is, and we have the ability to send them back to Jamaica, if our child is misbehaving in the education system, they'd often get sent home if they was able to straighten up, to fix up, because certain things wouldn't be allowed, sort of thing. So,
and we do find that when they come back, they do straighten up. I went to school with quite a number of children who came back and did pretty well before they came back to UK to go to university. But in Jamaica, because it's very difficult, and you often see from your grandparents or your parents will make sure to tell you that education is the key. Education is what will take you through. And so from a very early age, you find that this is instilled in you. And so even for me, when my grandmother died, I didn't think of stopping. That what she instilled in me to say that education is the way out. So even when things were difficult, I knew I had to make it in terms of education. And so from a very early age, it's very difficult. It's very, the competition is very stiff. And so in primary school, the teachers make sure it's costly, but it doesn't matter how much it costs. Jamaican parents will make sure that their children get the best education. They'll make sure that all the books are bought, all the bags, all the school uniforms are bought. And it is so important. And so the children know that. And so when they go to school, they have to do well. We still have... I'm not sure whether good or bad. Sometimes even but to say whether it is good, because it's not totally free in Jamaica. You still have to pay some amount of fees. And so you still have to do common entrance, which separate you from going to high school. So at 10 years old or 12, those children have to sit. I had to sit common entrance, which made sure that you got a place. So at 10 to 12, you're thinking, oh my gosh, if I don't study hard enough, I will not get a place into secondary school. And so you'll not get to do your O-levels, or now we have our Caribbean exam called CXC exams, right, which is equivalent to GCSE and equivalent to A-level. They have CAPE, right? But before, in my time, it was still doing the London-based GCE, O-levels and A-levels. And I had to do that, doing that without television, doing that on the lamplight, just cursing a lamp. But you had to make sure. And so you had to be in competition with British kids who were looking, and having electricity. But we still had to do those exams. We still had to do the Chaucer. We still had to do the Shakespeare. And so we still had to go through without actually, television to tell you. I'll never forget the first time I came here and went to Scotland. And having seen a moor for the first time. And saying, wow, so this is what it meant in the Mayor of Casterbridge. And not having a picture or anything to let you fully understand or deepen your understanding, your knowledge of what certain things are. But you still had to do that same exam as a British kid. And you do go through, and you got good grades. Many people are surprised. I taught at one of the top schools in Jamaica, Campion College. And we get 100% pass. And when in my time it was O-level before CXC. And Campion would get 100% pass. And
every single child passed.
Yes, and they would get like maybe 99% pass in A-levels. And they were getting A-levels, and we were sending children to Oxford, to Cambridge, and so. And I remember at one time some officials from Britain came to actually say, How is it possible? How is it possible that Campion is getting these top marks in O-levels and in the A-levels? But that is it, and they work hard. They work hard.
Amazingly, so immediately from what you've said there, I can straight away see a difference in the thinking and the mentality that goes with education. So because you've been saying that from very young, it's been instilled in you that education is key, and that virtually every single child in the Caribbean, in Jamaica, know that education is key, and it's instilled in them to succeed and do the best that they can all the time. And that is something that I would say is definitely missing from here and from our children. I think there's an element of education it's standard. It's that everybody gets to go. Nobody has to pay for it in that sense. It's a state thing. You get to go free. All you have to do is provide your uniform, and that's it. Everything else is provided. So there's an element of, I don't even think that our parents are speaking to the children in the same way, saying, telling them that education is key, that's the way out, that's the way to better yourself and so forth. I don't think those messages are being instilled into children right now.
Another difference, I would say, is with the teachers too. And I can remember from primary school where the teacher, when I grew up, the teacher was not just a teacher per se, but the teacher was also a church. The teacher was also the community organizer. And so the teacher, I mean, now it might not be as much, but they do, because I have cousins who teach in Jamaica, and they are still the ones who. So teaching is not just about imparting the knowledge, but it's imparting that culture too. So like my cousin Joan, she was a vice principal, and even though she was a vice principal, she was the one who still did the cultural dance. And so we have different competitions. And although she was a vice principal, she was the one who organized those kids. I remember even in my time, my first teaching job, I was just 19. But I sat up for 3 nights and I made 40 costumes so that the kids could go to festival and they won a goal. But that is just the extra that the teachers would go to make sure. You would also look for the kids and you'd also empower them. You try to empower them. So it's not just imparting knowledge, but it's imparting the culture and making them feel that this is important, and developing, as my headmaster at college would say, the holistic, optimally rounded, productive, and involved member of society. And that was a training we got at MICO to say, look, you as a teacher, that's what you're going to impart. You're going to take that child and you're going to make them optimally rounded, productive, and involved member of society. And when you are charged with that, when you are charged with that as a teacher going out from the MICO, then when you go out, it's amazing what you do,
That is a wonderful motto, that, isn't it, in terms of your teacher's perspective and what it is that you as a teacher is going to do. I would say that teachers here, we do have a to a degree, not to the extent that you've just spoken about in terms of culturally teaching the children culturally, because our curriculum time frame and structure doesn't really allow for too much of that, and you as a teacher have to take that on board for your class and try and extend that learning to them and to give them that holistic element. Sometimes that is difficult in the structures that we have.
Yes, and if I have one teacher in and she's teaching in the UK now, and her name is Andrea, and I remember when she came to first form at Clarendon College, I was teaching there. And Andrea, she wrote me back years ago, since she came to Britain. She's now a vice principal in Britain. And she said she'll never forget me, because what I did was to use, she could sing and she could dance. And I used that to embrace her, to allow her talents to show. And so she gained that confidence that she went on, and she said, I wasn't the prettiest child, I wasn't the brightest child, but you allowed me to shine through what I could do. And so I would make up songs. I allowed them to make up songs. I was teaching history at the time, and then everything, I remember we doing the Incas, and they would do a thing, and say, the leader of the Inca is the Lord Inca, come from a place the Cusco. So we used the popular culture, and then we made them make up, and so they remembered, and and allowed them to shine. And so that is what she was able to do, and it built her confidence, so that she went on to do great things. And she years later she wrote me and said, I've tried to find you, and that is how. So when you are able to do that, then you can develop in your kids that sort of confidence that will take them beyond what their parents ever imagined.
Absolutely.
And that's what you want for your children. That's what you want for them to be educated, for them to be leaders. And that's right now, we're talking about culture, and every Christmas, what I remember, people celebrating Christmas, but I remember the Christmas rebellion, the Sam Sharp rebellion in Jamaica, and Sam Sharp was one of our national hero, but he was an educated slave. So there he was, and many people just think of him, as a slave, who revolted and was killed. But if you look at Sam Sharp was one of the first, I would call him a union organizer. Because what he was planning was not really a revolt per se. He was planning a sit-down strike, which is what modern trade unionists do, a strike. And he was saying, look, they in Britain, and he was reading about, what Wilberforce were doing and so on. He would relate that to the slaves, and he would say, look, we're not going to sit by. What we want after Christmas, we're going to sit down. If they don't pay us, we won't work. So he was really organizing a sit-down strike, but the West Indian blood, they can't wait. So on Christmas Day, that rebellion start, which was the forerunner to emancipation. And it's what Eric Williams, the former Prime Minister of Trinidad, said. He said that when the British, when they saw what happened with Sam Sharp rebellion, where half of Jamaica was burnt down, and as Eric William, in the words of Eric William, it was either emancipation from above or emancipation from below, but emancipation. And so the British thought, we had better emancipate them, or else they are going to emancipate themselves from below. And that is what. But it was the education of Sam Sharp that was able to organize and to lead others and to be leaders. So it is the education. And that's what I stress. Education make you become a leader. All my top heroes are educated. I've had a full life. I've been able to meet some of the best. I've been able to meet Nelson Mandela. And for me, fighting in the diaspora, I remember when I was in college, we invited Bishop Desmond Tutu to Jamaica. I was part of the UNESCO youth, and we invited, and that was one of my great moments to have met Bishop Tutu and to say, how can we in that time, in the early 80s, how can we as young blacks, be in solidarity with South Africa. And I remember as a teenager, I would read every label to make sure that the product was not made in South Africa. And we would think of what can we do. So, and even at that time I was doing that, but I never imagined that in my lifetime I would live to actually see Nelson Mandela being, coming.
So what was that like, meeting him?
Oh my gosh, it was a moment. The first thing was the moment to come for him coming out of prison. And we got up, my whole household, we got up early in the morning, we cooked before day, so that we did not have to leave the TV to see him step over that threshold. And that was great, that was a great moment. But actually, when I was doing my master's, when he came to Jamaica, and they gave him an honorary degree on the University of the West Indies. And so to have been, and I made sure I was there, I got a ticket to go inside and to be in that university hall and to, for the man himself to walk beside you, and to be there when he was, he was given that honorary degree. It's one of my moments in life, that you say,
sounds good.
It doesn't get greater than that, And for me, that moment came because of education. It is because of education. I was there. I was at the university. I was doing my master's. That I was able to be in the room and to have seen the man personally walking, beside. I'm in this row and he's there. He's walking beside me, and just that. To be caught up in that great moment, and it's because of education, and I said education can take you so far, and that's what I encourage young blacks wherever you are, to just embrace that and to make it, to embrace life, to embrace education. I've seen what it has done for my own family, my cousins, my grandmother, as I said, instill education. And so even when she died, I knew I had to make it, despite the odds. And so all our grandchildren all over the world, especially us in Jamaica, we have all gone through universities, have made it, have degrees or whatever. But they have made it, and they are all over the world now, in Cayman, in the UK, in Canada, in the US, and wherever they go, they can get top jobs because they have been educated.
And I think there's, the education that you get in the Caribbean, beyond the academics, the fact that you're so well grounded in who you are and what your people have done before you, and the struggles and the strengths and the challenges and the things that they've overcome, has allowed your education to to be that holistic, well-rounded, so that you are able to go forward and lead your people because you know about your people. And I think here, blacks here, the education that they receive here is so substandard that they don't even understand or appreciate the fact that education is key to elevating themselves, because the education that they're receiving is not doing anything for them. That it's not even, they don't even see themselves in that either. So I don't think that they are harnessing it and taking it on board as much as if.
But it's like, as Maxine said, because like she can relate her experiences to her past in terms of like Sam Sharp as an educated man. Part of her cultural history. We don't necessarily, the education system in this country doesn't allow our children to make those connections. It really doesn't. So if they're not getting it, there's no way they're going to get it in the school. So if the onus is on the parents, and if the parents aren't educated in that way, then it's very the chances are slim that the child is going to receive that kind of empowerment, that kind of to know, so you are part of something bigger than yourself, and you know. Where you are today is because of the education of those who came before you. So you know your education, it's more than just exams and a means to a job. It's about empowering oneself to make whatever choices one wants, whatever decisions one makes. The world is yours. Yeah, I understand. I mean, even from the Caribbean perspective of like, you know, I'm used to hearing, oh, your cousins are gone New York, your cousins are gone Canada. You think, you know what I mean? They have a global perspective in terms of what's open to them. We here, I'm sorry, listen, we got children, we got young people in this country, in this city, won't go North London, then won't cross the Thames. What do you mean? I've got to go all the way up Edmonton for a job. What are you talking about? It's like, Lord, your world is just, I think our world is much smaller than the world that the perspective of the world is much smaller, much narrower than so-called country folk.
But I also think that's part of the British, where they have this higher level of thought process, in the sense that they think that they're the be all and end all. So if you are born in the UK, you're under you don't have to go nowhere to get anything, you know. It's like that. Whereas that's exactly, whereas in the Caribbean now you're thinking, okay, this is a small island, I need to be able to go to America or to Canada to spread my wings, to grow. Do you know what I mean? Whereas people here in the UK seem to think that they can get it in the UK, but in actual fact, when you make the comparison between the successes of, say, black people in the UK and the successes of black people in the USA and Canada and places, you'll see that they achieve far more.
Yes, I would agree with that to a large extent. I've often asked the question, why is it that the UK, which abolished slavery in 1834, and gave blacks the right to vote. I mean, we had adult suffrage in what 1944 and thereabout. And yet America, which was only in 68, got civil rights in terms of that. And yet you find that blacks, even though racism is in America, I still, in my own experience of my own family and people I know who have made the progress to be professors and deans, I know, I mean, personally, I know deans in the US who are blacks, who are Jamaicans. Actually, I have a professor, he wrote a book called The Children of Sisyphus in Jamaica, and then he's now a lecturer and he's a professor at Harvard. I know a dean who is a professor at Howard University. His ex-wife and I taught at Campion together. So it's that narrowing of saying their achievement. And if you look at it to the extent within my lifetime, you have had a black president. If you look in the Senate, if you look in the Congress, you still see a lot of mayors, a lot of blacks who have made the progress. So even though you still have, so much racism in America, it's still a more fluid society in terms of social mobility. Not to mention even Canada. Canada is way in a whole league by itself in terms of social mobility for West Indian, for Indians, for wherever you come from. If you look at the recent makeup of the parliament in Canada, the minister of foreign affairs. It's an expat. I mean, was born somewhere else. The Minister of Defense, he was born in India, but he fought in Afghanistan. Now Trudeau made him the Minister of Defense. And so in terms of you looking at where Canada is, that's where. One would think that UK would want to go. Having abolished slavery from 1834, yet I see in terms of the social mobility, it's just not there as it is in Canada. If I look at my cousins who have migrated to Canada and doing so much more successful in terms of the type of jobs that they get, because they have been educated so much more than my cousins who are my brothers who lives in the UK, were born in the UK, and yet it's like almost like a ceiling in the UK where you can go this far,
and that's it.
And I see that, and it becomes frustrating. Yeah, I know that it becomes frustrating for British Black if this is where you can go, and you see it all around, and it's there. It's a hidden.
Yes,
hidden.
It's hidden.
It's very subtle. The British are very the best.
Absolutely. I mean,
subtle.
They probably abolished first, but they were insincere.
But it's very subtle. They and very subtle. At least in US, in America, they don't like you. They don't like you. They tell you they're not sitting beside you. But in Britain, it's very subtle. So very subtle over the years. They have had this ceiling, and it's there. It's hidden. It's there. And you know it's there, but then, and I'm sure that's why a lot of blacks are not engaged, and the children are not engaged to embrace this education that can take them so much further. So as Danny said, in terms of our family, it's like we're universal, we're all over the diaspora, and I have friends who are teaching in Hong Kong, and I have friends who are teaching in Japan, and the Japan Prime Minister just came to Jamaica. I love those Jamaican teachers, and that's what he came to Jamaica and said. So we have a lot of teachers in Japan, doing bilingual. So that's Jamaica, little Jamaica. We're now exporting teachers. Look at that. Last year, Britain came and took.
We've had an influx of Jamaican teachers here in our secondary schools.
Teachers, and that we train them, and now we export them. We don't export bananas no more. We export teachers.
I was going to say that in terms of
and that is all because of education. Right? Because they came for trained teachers. They don't come and take them. At least the nurses before in the 60s, they used to come and take the nurses and train them. They don't take them and train them. They take the trained ones and experience from Jamaica. So, and that is something that Britain needs to look at. You want to take our kids and train them, but, you're not training your own, but you're coming for what we have trained. Yes.
For the better trained as well.
Better, yes.
But what I was going to say was in reference to education. I think one of the key differences between here and the US is that so US have got actual black colleges, so the Harvard and the Howards, and so I think, and that the students that go there are being taught all about themselves, their background, where they come from, and everything else, and then they're seeing that's why they got the deans and the professors there. So they have role models right there in front of them that they can aspire to. There is nothing comparable over here in that kind of sense. We don't even have a black school of any type. Anyone that attempts to create a black school, we've just had one shut down. Somebody attempted to put together a black school, an independent black school, and they were the government came after them, hounded them. There is we get Christian schools, we have Jewish schools, we've got Catholic schools, but beg a belief if you try to get a black school opened over here, it's just not happening. So again, it's what you talk about, this hidden racism. It's like there's no way are we allowing you as black people to empower yourself and create your own school. It's not happening. So even then, so where we don't have the black colleges or the universities and so forth, there again shows the disparity between the importance of education, or attempting to instill that importance of education into our black children. It's just not a priority over here, where we can't even come together and create an institution of any kind. So there has been that, America has been able to really, the African Americans over there have been able to take hold of that, because they have got those institutions that they can go to, so education has been really highlighted over there,
And part of what I would say is, for me or for many Caribbean, it's like what Marcus Garvey said, a people without knowledge of their past is like a tree without roots. So if you have no roots, there's nothing to draw strength from. You have no anchor, nothing in times of trouble. There's nothing to draw from. It's a culture from within. And so I think the onus is on the parents. But I think when blacks come to Britain or Caribbean, in term, they're just so much hustling the 3 jobs, they forget to really to instill with them.
It becomes survival as opposed to...
It's become a survival rather than a cultural passing on, as,
and planning
African
for
tradition
prosperity
of passing on. There are no times with the kids. I grew up with my grandmother, and I'm glad I did, because we always, like Friday night was always a ritual of storytelling and a Nancy story and the whole thing, and so you grew up with that, and they tell you about your older persons, the old people, and you went and visited them. So you had that, so even when she died, I still had that of the family, where they were coming from. I can trace back to wherever. So you have that deep roots, as Garvey says, so that deep roots. So when trouble came, when she died, when I was 16, I still was grounded in who I was, and she will say, "Oh, you're an educated, you're a robotom, you're from you're from this stock, you know who you are," and so you came from a generation of educators, of oh, your grandaunt was a teacher, teacher robotom, and Dr. Robotom, and you knew you were related to them. So within that, there were these positive role models within your family, and my uncle was a trade unionist, and he was working with the prime minister. So you grew up with that. So, and my uncle, in terms of the extended family, which is also of African tradition, the role they play in your growing up as a child is very important. I remember I did well in maths, not because I liked maths at that time, but because my uncle, he was always into the sciences, and he would come visiting. And when he came visiting, my grandmother would show him that report. So that was a ritual. He would look at that report. And when he's going to go look at that report, he's going to put it in his pocket. And anything, once you do good, so he'll look, and he's going to look at the maths and the English. And he's going to look at the maths, the English, and the sciences. So you have to do well. And he sees a 90 or he sees a 80, they're going to get a £1 note in the 60s. This is a whole lot of money, So you're going to get that. So that motivated
that
you.
Reward,
that motivated you, that he's going to look at your report. So you will have to do well. You have to get up, you have to study, because there's a high expectation of all the family, and they are going to look at it. And so that motivated, that's where the role model, even if it's not up there, but it starts within the family, that the role model is there. And that from a young age, and that keeps you through. And if West Indian families, wherever they go, they keep that extended family connection, then the child will do well, and they instill that with them and have time to tell them about the background, about the family history, because some people do have a rich family history which some of the others didn't know about, because the parents, as I said, survival, as Danny said, they're trying to survive. So they had no time to actually tell them. And they came from a rich history. And they have no time to really know about it. So it passed them by and they said, oh, we're sending them to school. And as you said, at school, they are not getting that.
They're not getting
so they're not getting that roots that Garvey talk about. So that when hard times come, they can stand. They can draw from within them, you know, to say, look, I
and
can
that's
make
key.
it. And that's key.
That's key. Our children's roots are missing. Yeah, our roots are missing because the stories and the has not been passed down. As you said, our parents were so busy just trying to survive to, you know, in this hostile environment that they came into. You know, it's like some of those traditions have got lost in the way. And another thing that you said, which is another key thing here, is the expectation, the high expectations that everybody had, not just your parents, but your uncles, your aunties, your family, and beyond that, you know, beyond it, all had that high expectation. I wouldn't say that that's existent anymore. You know, it feels non-existent. In terms of, you get it in certain families and certain things. You can definitely see that. You see it a lot in the African families here. You'll see that they have high expectations for their children. Unfortunately, I would say though that the Black Caribbeans here, that expectation is tends not to be there of the British Black Caribbeans. You know that.
Sorry,
they've lost that connection.
Lost
connection. Yeah.
And was it I wondered if it was a part of, you know, this adaptation and trying to adapt. So rather than, you know, I remember when I just started learning, you'd learn and you'd say, oh, the nuclear family as the end all of,
That's
you know,
right.
and not looking at the advantage and disadvantage. So I think in the early days, people did not look at the extended family as, you know, an ideal form. So, okay, yes, you wouldn't talk about your grandparents, you wouldn't talk about your aunts, because that the ideal British family was a nuclear family.
Yeah.
And so they aspired to that, rather not looking at the strength that coming from an extended family. You know, they just look at, no, that's not the expected. And so it is part of the adaptation. And so you lost what you had as your roots. You know? So,
and that's always been, I think, something that has been quite instrumental over here is that breakup of the Black family, because our strength is in the family, and a way to keep us at a lower substandard level is to destroy the family, and that has been something that's been systematic over here in that sense of pulling apart of the Black family. So we lose connections with our roots, we lose connection with the support. You know, we focus on the images that they're putting in front of us, which is the nuclear family. That's supposed to be the be all and end all of what you're working to achieve. So in that sense, we've become isolated.
Yes.
And no longer know how to connect to our roots, to get that additional guidance. And we're not getting any support from outside either.
I see that even in small Cayman, which is...
Because Cayman's is tiny, isn't it?
It's tiny, but it's a place with a lot of different nationalities.
Okay.
Although it is so small, I mean, 50,000... Between 50 to 60,000 people. I mean, small like a borough.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But it's more than 100 different nationalities living there. Wow, yeah, from all over the world. And I see the same sort of thing that happened in Britain with British children that is happening to the expat children that comes to Cayman. So even in October, I organized a sort of cultural evening.
Okay.
And that I targeted young expat children. So we did music, we did folk music. So I had a music teacher, she's British, but she can play a lot of Caribbean. And we did the folk music, we did Jamaican folk music, we did some Spanish dance, because we have a lot of expats who are Spanish. And we did So we did all the music. Then we did the storytelling.
Okay.
So we had a Nancy story. We had the Big Boy story. So we did a lot of Jamaican, and then they were like, "Oh yeah," and they were really excited. And then we did some art and craft, and so we tried to do different stations. So we had 4 things, and we did like a 2 hour, which is something that I think I'm going to do more often, so that the students, I saw that need, that they are losing connection, and once they don't have that connection, so it was a way to get them. And I looked at how that went, and I said, wow, that is something that we could do in a bigger form, and next time but that storytelling, that in Cayman we also have that each year, where we have stories from around the Caribbean, around elsewhere, and they have storytelling, a whole week of storytelling, and so you have people coming up from Trinidad, and they're telling story from Jamaica, and they're telling story from elsewhere, Belize and US, and so you get a lot of stories, and it's well attended, and so that's a way of bridging the gap, and not allowing the children there to lose that connection. So they are too growing, although they are living in a different environment. They are growing up on stories, and so that's a good thing that the cultural foundation does in Cayman, and that's so the children are exposed to that, because it's all about the exposure, and how do you expose them, and how do you get them to connect, and how do you maintain that connection with home, with the culture, with their roots, and allow themselves to grow their own roots.
And make it a real thing, not just pages in a book, but it's something real.
It becomes real, and they can embrace that rather. Otherwise, they'll just live with popular culture.
Exactly.
And when you live with just only popular culture, as Garvey said, you have no roots. So when times of trouble, when hard times come, you have nothing to connect with. You have when the storms of life come. You're blown to and fro because you cannot stand. And that's what Garvey meant when he said, you're like a tree without roots, because you can't stand in the storm. You can't really,
one blast of wind knock you over.
Yes, and when people come with things that you're not used to, and so if you have to face racism, you don't know how to deal with it. You're like, wow, because I've never been exposed. But when you have that strength of character, of knowing who you are, and you have that, because within those stories, a lot of those stories were how you overcome. A lot of Anansi's story was how Anansi get through hard times.
And I'm using mind. It was clever.
Using his brain.
It was clever. Yes,
he was a trickster. Yes, but still, is how do you get over? So from stories, you will learn how to overcome in hard times, and that is part of
and just developing of an attitude,
an attitude in your mind.
Them lick me once, they're not gonna lick me twice. Cause me strong, you know what I mean? Them kind of.
And it's also part of the story is developing the mind, because you tell a story, you can go and tell it. You're developing your mind nowadays. Okay, everything is to a click. You don't need to, but it's part of what you really need to maintain is to connect. Make that connection, and I don't know how as young British you people who are educated are going to try to get the next generation so that we don't lose them.
I mean that's part of what this program is about, and we see ourselves as part of a movement in this country. Those of us who know these things have a duty, a responsibility to try and pass on, not just to the youth, but to adults as well. You know what I mean? The whole community needs this information. The whole community needs some of the attitude and the stories that you've spoken of. And
I wrote a little. It's like a little poem.
Sister Maxine.
I wrote when I just remember part of it when I went to Cayman, and it was like they were laid back, because Cayman is a affluent society. So the kids were laid back, and
tax haven kind of.
Yes. So they thought it's free education, everybody go to school. So it's quite different. It's more like British, in terms of everybody getting everything. So until you see that when you leave now, they're saying, oh, but we can't get the top job. But you have to be educated to get it. You can't be just a Caymanian anymore. And so many of them are like, wow, what does that mean, to their society? And they see, a lot of British come in and taking the top jobs, and they're like, what does that mean? But you have to be educated, otherwise expats are going to come and get it, because the companies are going to want the very best, so they're going to go all over the world, and that's why so many nationalities live in Cayman. So this was part of, I just remembered a part of it that I wrote, and it's called The Question, and I think it's the same question that you are facing in Britain. And it's part of how do I get them to learn, to be filled with the desire, to become more than their parents ever imagined, to know that education, I've moved, the offspring of a slave to become professor at Harvard, the son of a farmer to become doctor, lawyer, chief justice, from the ghettos of Kingston to become an engineer at Boeing. Not willing to settle, not willing to be shackled by the horrors of slavery, but to embrace the world of Garvey. Up, you mighty race, you can accomplish what you will. I have urged. I've shared stories, videos of children filled with desire, who beat the odds and became more than their parents ever imagined. Children who reached the heights that great men kept because they toiled upward through the nights.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Seems like poetry runs in the family. Wow, that is amazing. Absolutely amazing.
I'm still, it's still that toiling, toiling, and that knowing, that knowledge that you can get there, and that others have reached, and not just settling. But I just there's a young boy, and they just have him. There's a program in Jamaica, and I'll send you the link that you should link into it. And it's run by one of our radio host, TV host named Ian Boyne, and he has been doing that for more than 20 years now. And he interview successful Jamaicans from all over the world who have made it despite the odds.
Yeah.
And just since I'm in Brittany, when I was coming on the place, somebody had sent me the link that he interviewed this young man who is now an engineer with Boeing in Japan. And he told the horror stories of how his father used to beat him, and so he slept in a car, in the yard in the ghetto area. But he was talking about the strength that he grew. They said, and then he answered, "Oh, you get food?" He said, "No, man, you live in the ghetto, you get food, because everybody looking out for you." And he learned, and it's from there. And he would go to school, and he would get up early before day and go bed, so nobody don't know that he's living in there. And I mean, it's touching. But he never for once didn't think that he would make it. And it's right through that. He said even when he was doing that, his concept, it's and he said he knew that one day he was going to get, and he started, working, and he worked part-time, he worked weekends, and Monday morning he went to school. And he passed, and he and he said a teacher saw that he had, and that's one thing. Jamaican teachers will see, and they'll push you. And he made mention of the teachers who pushed him and made sure, and then he passed. And then once he said after he was doing that for years, and sleeping under this place, and and making sure his clothes, and he go high and buying school clothes by cousin, and he went, until eventually a cousin saw him and saw that that's where early one morning he overslept, and he saw that he was sleeping there, and then his mother was in the States, and then she sent for him. And now, and he went with that inside of him. And he went to America, and he got through, and he went to school, and he did well. And he's now a top engineer with Boeing. I mean, that's a story. Yeah. And that's where he slept for years. Yeah. Just without. I
tell you, the mindset, the courage, the determination. Yeah. It's all of that is in the youth that are pushing them forward no matter what. And I just don't see that mindset in our children here.
I was going to say, I think that is... I say it's something that you see in Jamaicans, in Caribbeans, But as you say, we're not seeing it necessarily that strong over here. And it must be something to do with community. You know what I mean? We're being raised in community.
Or yeah, there's that, I think, and also the fact that what they have to work for their education.
Yes,
they have to pay for it. They have to. There's that, So I think there's an element of when things are given to you freely that you don't appreciate it, or to that level. Even though the education that they're getting here is not of the same caliber as to what they would be receiving, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's all, as his name is Arthur Richards, and he works at Boyne. And he said, one of the things he said, he had to be resourceful. So he said, living in the ghetto, you had to be resourceful. So he and Boyne asked him, how did you survive? He said, man, bottle. And then he would pick up bottles, and that's how he started earning his little money to go to school. And so you become resourceful. And he talk about hard working, and keeping your focus. And those are some of the things he said that made him successful. Hard working, keeping focus, and making sure that you know where you're going. You know that this is where you are, that's not where you're going to remain. But there's something better. So that focus of upward mobility will keep you and will strengthen you, and that hard work will that you're not going to remain poor. You're not going to remain poor, and this is not where your dwelling place is. You have to get out of it. So once you know that, and you have that dedication, then you will make it as a young black. It doesn't matter where you're born. If you don't have that determination, you don't have that work ethics, and so it doesn't matter whether you're born in with rich parents or you're born in the ghetto. It doesn't matter, because whether you're born in the ghetto, if you're born in the ghetto, you're going to be resourceful, you're going to be dedicated, you're going to be focused, and someone is going to see you, someone is going to help you. And once teachers see that you want and you have that work ethics, then they're going to move forward with you, and they're going to open your eyes, and they're going to show you where the scholarships are, wherever, and they're going to help you, and they're going to put you onto somebody else who will help you.
And what you've just said there is what many successful people and people that write and support and for businesses and entrepreneurs and so forth, this is one of the things that they always say is about having that focus, having that vision, knowing that where it is that you want to get to, knowing and believing that where you are now is not where you're going to stay, that you have the determination, the focus, the vision to pull you forward to what it is that you want to achieve. That is one thing that all successful people say that they have had. That's part of them, that's part of their being, is to be focused, to believe in what it is that they're trying to achieve, and what they're going for is what allows them to bring it into fruition, because they never doubt the fact that is going to come to bear, and then paths open to them because their eyes become open to things that wasn't there before, or that they might not have seen before because there wasn't that focus there.
And part of our Caribbean heritage is our spiritual belief, and for most of us it's perseverance, it's God, it's hard work ethics, and for me, when family failed, it was God. I remember I went to university on the verse of a song, and when I took in my application,
can you explain that? Oh, you went to university on the verse of a song.
Yeah, okay. I've come thus far by faith. I can't sing, my voice is right. But the song, it goes, I've come thus far by faith, leaning on the Lord, trusting in his holy word. He never failed me yet. And I believed that verse. And so when I took in my application, I had no money. And I took it in, singing that verse in my head.
Wow.
And I went through, when I got leave to go to university, they gave 10% of the staff, and it was 65 of us on staff. So it was 6.5. Now it's who last come and you last get, And so I was a 0.5, so they can't give 0.5 persons, so they have to give me so then I got leave to go to university. So you just got leave, and then you got money for the first year. Then you had to find out how you're going to go. And so I couldn't get student loan. So I'm like, where am I going to get money from? And I wasn't thinking of that. I was just going forward. I was having that song in my head. And God just provided. He just provided different people, you know, as you said, the support system. I remember I was living with a family, and their daughter came down, and I didn't know her very well. And this is God. I didn't know her very well. And so they said, come on, we're having a family, a family reunion. You have to come. So I left Kingston and I went down. And so I'm there in the kitchen with her, and we are washing the dishes. And then she said to me, how much is your rent? And in my head, I'm like, why is this lady asking me how much is my rent, you know? And then I told her, at that time it was $500, but it was a lot of money at that time. You're talking about in the 80s, you know. So then she said, okay, I'm going to send you the money to pay for your rent. She said, once your rent is paid, you can drink sugar and water and go, you know. So, and she sent me for my last year, she sent the money, and that money was able to pay my rent, my telephone, my light bill, and my water rate for the whole year.
Wow.
And just that God provided this, lady
you see?
To do that.
You see,
and that is part
why?
of what I said, the voice of a song.
Yeah.
You know, and I ended up meeting a flatmate, and she was doing her master's in science, and she was studying nuclear science, and she was doing her master's, and her name is Maxine also. And when I didn't have food, she was working, and she would pay even for the helper to, somebody to come and wash. And so she said, no, you can't pay this. So she'd just take the clothes and give it to the lady. Just the provision. Mm-hmm. So that's what the verse of the song meant. God made provisions. And once you can make provisions, and once you can see that, then it's God provisions throughout your life, because he knows where he wants to take you. So when you have that faith base, then it will take you. I'll go back into my own. I remember my grandfather died when I was 6. And just 6 months before he died, he gave me a goat. And I love goat. And so I say it is God put the love of goats in my heart. He gave my brother a goat too, but he never care his goat. So within a year, they had to sell his goat. So my goat multiplied. So my goat had kids, and then had kids. So I ended up with 10 goats. And of course, you had some dogs. We call them like a wolf dogs, and they would run in the night. And one night they killed 3 of my goats. So I still end up, I still had. So when my grandmother died, I still had 7 goats. But here it was, God made provision from I was 6.
Yeah.
But when I was 16 and my grandmother died, and I had to pay for my O-levels. And the O-levels had come up to, I was doing 8, so it came up to about $70. And that time, we got 30 cents could carry you to school. So, $70 is a lot of money. If 30 cents can carry you to school, it's 10 cents for bus fare. So, $70 is a lot of money. So it was my goats that I sold to pay for my O-levels.
Look at that.
So that's God making provision from I was 6 for when I was 16.
Yeah.
And I needed that. And as I said, just put the love of goats in my heart.
Yeah.
And so I still love goats, but I can't read them anymore. But it's just amazing.
It's amazing. What I pick up from that story there is that when the why is clear, when you know what it is that you want and what it is that you're going for and why you're going for it, the how will appear. You don't need to worry about how you're going to get there, because you are very clear about that. So your faith base that you said is what provided the provision. It's that resonates with me in the sense of when the why is clear, the how will appear. On that note, let's just take a quick breath. Amazing. We're going to come back to you. We're just going to take a quick breath right now.
Yeah.
Okay, as you hear, the motto of our program is time to rise, time to shine, time to elevate the mind. We're going to give you a little spoken word piece on this. So kick back, relax, and we'll see you soon. Time to rise, time to shine. Time to elevate one's mind. To empower oneself and others through knowledge acquired is a true gift of love. From you to you. from you to the world. A gift that once received can never be taken away. To bless oneself with the gift of setting one's mind, body and soul free. To live one's potentiality is to live a life divine, where you control your mind and your time. To educate in the African way is to understand they know it all anyway. There is nothing new, only that which has been forgotten. All knowledge lies within. To draw it out, that's where the lesson begins. If you believe it's there, then the way will become clear. Today's life lesson will draw your destination near. You'll realize you were already there. So open your mind and let the world in. Let not fear of the unknown cause you to live in sin. For it is a sin to live less than you are. Seek out new knowledge and you'll travel far. Mother necessity gave birth to children of invention. The curiosity of the child gives the adult direction. The teacher, the student, they both reside in you. Self-love is your glue. So ascend beyond negativity, beyond fear, above the clouds of doubt that shrouds the mind and stifles belief in oneself, in one's ability to be. Shine, reveal the light within, the light where love begins. Time to rise, time to shine. Time to elevate the mind. Time to rise. Time to shine. Time to elevate your mind. Time to rise. Time to shine. Time to elevate your mind. Rise, time to shine, time to elevate your mind, time to rise, time to shine.
Yes, yes, yes. Time to rise, time to shine, time to elevate your mind. And we are doing just that in the presence of Maxine from the Cayman Islands, that is just giving us and imparting so much wisdom about education and the importance of it. So I just wanted to talk to you about, I know that there has been some British teachers coming over to the Cayman Islands and teaching over there. What's been your experience of that?
Well, it has always been within part of the Caribbean that British teachers come over to the Caribbean. When I went to school, there were a lot of British teachers. Now in Jamaica, we have managed to reverse that, where instead of getting British teachers to come to Jamaica anymore, we are exporting teachers to Britain. So it just shows that everybody can reverse their role.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And that, for me, that is phenomenal that we have reversed that, where we are sending teachers to Britain rather than taking teachers. However, in Cayman, we still have a lot of teachers coming. We do have a lot of Caribbean teachers, but we do have a lot of British teachers who come. And I find that before, the ones we had before, when I went there, you had a lot of British teachers there, but they were seasoned in the Caribbean.
Okay, what do you mean seasoned in the Caribbean?
You find that they had taught, some of them had taught in Jamaica before, so they had moved to the Cayman, or they had taught in the U.S. Virgin Islands, or they had taught somewhere else. I had a head of department who had taught in Fiji. So once you have been around, then you find that they are milder, they are more tolerant. So I managed to make friends with a lot of British white teachers. I've found in the last, say, 8 years, there is a reverse. You have a lot of, I find that new teachers are coming, and they're coming straight out of Britain, having no other experience. And for me, there's a difference. There's a difference in how they operate.
Okay, so sorry. So when you said that previously teachers were coming and they were seasoned, and that was because they had experience of teaching in other places. So when you say seasoned, does that mean that they're not white supremists? Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
That they're not carrying any kind of.
No, there's no. So my former experience with them was like we're equals.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, so there's no color barrier.
A lot more appreciation for my background of education, and appreciation for my input.
Okay.
What I had to say.
So there was value.
Because they saw me as an educated black, and
absolutely,
somebody who's full of knowledge and ideas and skills. While I find that the new arrivals, I don't think as tolerant as in terms of that. So okay, they come, and within 2 years, it's the positions that they're after. I find that a lot of them are after, okay, so I want to be vice principal. So I'm going after those jobs.
So they're going after the top positions.
The top position. So and that put me thinking, maybe right or wrong, I'm not sure, but for me now, I'm like, okay, do they see this as another plantation? And my mind started going that way,
because they're coming in and they're taking the boss roles. So now they're looking down on you, and not valuing your input or your many years experience of teaching.
And for me, it's bringing a lot of the British system in there, which is saying, okay, it's this way, and not looking that there could be another way. And probably, because I don't think anymore that British education system is the best. There are 24. I mean, if you
just compare it on the world league table,
we're
not even in the top 10.
You're not in the top 10. So why then are you telling me to
come and tell me how to do things?
I must do levels. So because you're coming from Britain and you can do levels, I don't really care about levels. I mean, I've taught at the top schools in Jamaica, and I've taught in the Cayman before without levels. I've taught children who have gone on to do very well at top universities. So why should I really care about whether I can do levels or not?
Yeah.
And that is, for me, that's what in terms.
So they're coming to impose their way upon.
Well, yes, but they were brought in, so I can't even say they impose. I mean, they were brought in to do that. So that is it is up to the Cayman Islands to change their system. It is up to the Cayman Islands who you want. So Cayman has to decide, what is it we want? Otherwise, I mean, if you, in the words of Keen Dawes from Trinidad, he said, if you have your culture and you don't top it up and you don't ice into it what you want, then other people are going to come in and put in what they want. So it is up to Cayman to actually say, this is the type of education system we want, and this is where we want to go. But if you bring in, you bring in EO, or you bring in somebody to be a principal from Britain. We just had a new principal from Britain. We have had vice principals from Britain. We have had top people in the ministry, and they all come in from Britain. And by the time they find that, okay, they have to learn the way, or you have to adopt the thing. But then you're going to bring your British way of life. You're going to bring what is happening in Britain. So you're going to bring the grid, which is not working. You're going to bring the levels that are not working. And every time I come to Britain and I see, how the education system that is not really meeting the needs of the kids, then I get angry that yes, we are taking these things. Do you expect it's going to meet the needs of the Cayman Islands children? No. Not when they are coming from Jamaica, not when those kids are coming from Honduras, not when, and I'm saying, look, unless you are going to try to see how you can meet the needs of these immigrant children who are making more and more numbers each year, then you're going to end up like Britain, where you're never able to meet their needs.
Yeah.
Because at the very beginning, you did not see the significance, you did not see that rising number, and you did not, allocate resources to deal with that. And if you don't deal with that, and that's what I will say to the CEO when I go back, because I've just had a student who did a research, for his SBA, his school-based assessment in CXC, and he did on the needs of Hispanic children. So I'm going to allow him to take it to see the CEO and say, look, this is what his findings are in terms of, and so what are we going to do about it? It is not enough. You can't have a school with so many Hispanic children, yet you have only one ESL teacher, and that is it. So what will happen to them when they are left down the bottom of the ladder? So unless you see and attack it at the beginning. However, if British and Britain is not doing enough to attack what they have here, how can you then expect somebody to come to be in charge when they are going to bring the same systems that are in Britain, So it's not going to work, it will not get them there. Everybody wants first class education, but it's how you go about it, and I do see that as how they come and what they want. And is it that I just want the top job because it pays so much money, or do I really want to make a change, to make an input? I don't get that from them. I don't get that, especially they move very fast, So I don't really get that, that is something they want deep down to make a change, to make a difference. And so I don't care who is there, whether you're British, whether you're Hispanic, whether you're Jamaican, whether you're from Hong Kong, whether you're from India. As long as when you get there, you really want to make a difference and you feel that you have the attributes to make the job, to do the job. Because being a dean of discipline or being in charge, which discipline we know is one of the key, and that is not there too. And if you take a job that is, has to do with discipline, and you just wanted that big money, because you're not helping the teachers, and it's all putting back, it's the teacher's fault, then that's not going to get education. It's not helping anybody. It's not helping the teacher. It's not helping the children. Children need boundaries, they need discipline, and once you have a school with good discipline, then you're going to get those kids going. You're going to get, those kids are going to learn. But without that parameter of what we can do, what we can't do, and without that discipline, then the expectation might be there, but they are not going to embrace it, because kids are going to test the boundaries. Is what's going to happen after.
That's innate. That's what kids do, is test the boundaries.
That's the way, to go. As you started your show with, empowering your minds. And I remember when I just got to sixth form, and I read, and that is what really, in terms of me embracing education to get to the highest level. I read, it was Sources of West Indian History, and there was a section in it. It's all about, all the papers that came back and forth from Brittany, all the correspondence. And within that, and they put it together in one book called Sources of West Indian. And we had to read a part of it. And one of the correspondents, when they were trying, just after emancipation, they were trying to establish the Michael charity. Lady Michael died and left some monies. They were trying to establish the Michael school, and they were trying to establish a training college for the teachers to And of course, some of the government officials and planters, of course, did not want the slaves to be educated, so they were arguing for it. And one of the arguments that the person who was, saying for to establish this school, one of the things he said the only way, now that they have been emancipated, now that we have no whip over their backs, the only way to continue to control them is to have power over their minds. And when I read that,
you understood.
I understood. Education is a powerful tool that people can have power over their minds.
Liberation.
And so it can liberate you. Yeah. It can make you, can break you, can liberate you. Power over the mind. And I'm like, do I want somebody else to have power over my mind? I have an uncle and he never drank, and he all alert. My uncle didn't drink because he said, you can't, your mind? See, you can't drink to lose your mind, lose control over your mind. And he would not do anything that would allow him to lose control over his mind, because he was so in tune with his mind. He said, no, this is the most powerful tool I have, and I'm not going to allow anything or anyone to have that control over my mind.
Yeah, you'll often hear of prisoners, even like Nelson Mandela. That was one of the things that in his Robben Island. Is it Robben Island? Yeah. That they could take all of these things from him, but they couldn't take his mind, and it was his mind and that freedom that he had in his mind that kept him all those years in there. And you'll find many people that have gone into prison who then take up the book and start reading and start exercising that mind, gaining power and control in their mind and stuff, so that they come out a completely different, stronger person. So it's that understanding that your mind is under your control, and nobody can take control of your mind unless you allow them to. And that is the key to your freedom, is that being conscious and aware of the control in your mind.
Yes, and if you even look at Hitler, what he did was, how he organized that curriculum to use it, that education. I mean, if you look at a Hitler curriculum, you'd see history, like 3 hours of history or 3 hours of geography, so that every German child growing up would know the geography of the world or the history of Germany. And it was just that, so that he could control.
And you'll find that every culture, bar the black culture, especially British, does that. So the Chinese will teach their children about their history, about where they come from, that they're supposedly different strain from the human races. And then also every culture teaches their children about themselves. Us as black people are the only culture, especially in the UK, that do not teach their children about themselves. Yeah. Even in America, the African Americans will be taught about African American history, and so they get an idea of about themselves and so forth. And as you said, your education, you was very much instilled in all of the challenges and the people and your heroes. You have them in Jamaica. You're taught about them, so forth. But we don't have that here to that same level. You've got pockets of it, supplementary schools doing it and so forth and things, but the education system here is not designed for that, because they know what empowering us and knowing about ourselves, they know the strength that will bring forward. This is why we have so much confused children and young people and adults in the UK, confused about themselves and about their identity, about their own powers. They're enslaved in their mind. They're enslaved to the boundaries that have been put upon them.
And that's what Bob Marley sings about. Free yourself from mental slavery. None but yourself can free your mind. That's Bob's song. And that is part of it. We have to, and as black families, you know, wherever you go, it doesn't matter where you live, whether you're in Cayman, whether you're in US, Canada, and so, you must empower your children. You must tell them the importance of their mind, the importance of education. And wherever you go, once as a family, you make that clear to the child from is small, and you make sure that, as I said, the connection is there with family and with extended family. I have a little cousin in Cayman now, doing very well, and I'm always there, and you know, so I taught the stories as my uncle's grandson, and so I make sure everything, you know, I taught the family history, and so he knows that he's doing well, you know, and he understands from very small the importance of education. So when he goes to school, he knows he has to do well. He knows his mother is going to show me the report. He knows she's going to. I go to every recital. He's musical, and I say, "Oh, your grandfather was a musician." And one of the a very good musician, a mentor artist in Jamaica. And you know, I said the music skipped my generation in Jamaica, but he is, and he, you know, so but that support of family. So although yes, his parents, you know, they have money, so he doesn't need money from me, but he needs my time, and I give him my time. I give him my stories. And he knows that I'm there. I'm going to. He went into the science, and his name is Jonathan. And he goes and he does the science exhibition. I'm there with him, and I mean, I don't know what he's making. He say, "Oh, I'm making." I say, "Fantastic," right? And then I will stay up at night, and you know, he has to make it himself, you know, because I don't believe in the parents making. So he's doing that, and we'll stay up with him, and he's putting all these things, and and he goes, and he, you know, and I take time out, and I go. And his mother, so that's support. And he feels good. He looks in the audience, he sees me, sees his father is there. His father takes time, and we go, and we, you know, that's support. But he knows I'm there. I have at the iPad, the tablet, and he won that at the science exhibition, the science fair. He got first prize, and that was part of his prize. And yes, and he came and he gave it to me, and I'm like, yes, and I was, you know, oh my gosh, you know, you hear it, but it's that family connection, that support system. So although we are away from Jamaica, we're still maintaining that connection, and that connection is there. And his father used to come and stay with grandma when I was small, and I used to look after him, and now this is his child, you know. So it continues like that, and it's that bonding, it's that family connection, it's that support that's allowing him to do well, and he knows, and that our expectation is there, you know. And although we are in a different island, it's still carrying over, you know, and that's all.
It's interesting that you made reference to science, and I know that for us in this country, looking at the Caribbean and looking at one of the ways in which Jamaican and Caribbean education really hit the forefront for us was that over the last few years, University of West Indies and some of the younger students, they've been winning enough prizes. Particularly I know that Microsoft, they have this global students science award. Any student from around the world can enter into this award. And I think Jamaica won it like twice in 3 years or something.
Yes, we have a university now, University of Technology, UTech, we call it. Yeah. And they have,
it produces excellent global excellence. Yes. Do you know what I mean? I know.
Yes, computer, and in the computer field, they won. I think 2 years now. That's with Siemens, they won, and they win prizes, and they're making, you know, coming up with new ideas, new things. So although it's a small island, they're doing big, especially in that field. So it's not just, you know, people just think of us as musicians.
Exactly.
And we are as you say, as I said at Michael, we said optimally rounded. And so we are rounded. We are rounded.
But you do have to give props for the fact that such a small island, even as musicians, to be recognized on a global level, the impact that has had, you know. But we're much deeper than musicians, and athletics.
Like I said,
you know what I mean?
You know, like you said, in terms of just in the mainstream culture, Jamaica is known for what? Jamaica is known for reggae. Jamaica is known for foods and good time.
And races with gold.
And
the speed and speed. They're fast.
Absolutely. But I'm saying that you know, again, at the same time, Jamaica is getting a reputation for excellence in science.
Yeah, man, in everything.
You know what I mean?
As I said, just for Britain to come and British schools looking for teachers of science and maths, and to be taking so many, then.
And I do think that there's always been, though, that the understanding that education in Jamaica has been of a high class.
Because we've had it in that. Oh, sorry.
Has been of a high class, of a high standard. So I do think that to be the case because, we always, like I said, we always knew that we would send our children back to fix up and straighten up when they weren't doing it properly here. If they weren't making the grades, if they were misbehaving, and if that, they would send them back to fix up because none of that the foolishness would carry on that they're getting away with here over there. And they would come back. So we knew that in that sense. The fact is, it's that it's been acknowledged even further now by the government in the fact that they're recruiting the teachers from over there and bringing them here. Do you see what I mean? But there has always been an understanding that education, once they accessed it, I think there was we believe that not everybody was educated over there, that could afford to go to school and things like that. But we knew that once they got to school, once they accessed it and stuff, that it was of a good quality, of a high quality. I don't think anyone thought anything different about in that sense. So, the fact that it's been validated even more so now that we are recruiting Jamaican teachers, so much of them in secondary school especially, that's
for maths and science.
For maths and science, it is. Isn't it? My daughter's psychology teacher, maths teacher, science teacher are all Jamaicans.
Go on.
Are all Jamaicans, and I will say there is a different level of expectation that's put on her by these particular teachers, and we work on a different level, and so they would connect with the parent, they would talk with you to try and get, and then if you're that type of parent that is on them, on your child to succeed as well, then they instigate even further with you to ensure that your child is. I'm on phone. Conversation with these teachers in that sense.
In Jamaica you have top schools, and so there's a fight because I taught at a top school in Jamaica, Campion College, and I remember once when we got to 8th grade, that's the school I left from to go to Cayman, and in 8th grade there were four students had migrated, and there were spaces for 4 students. And we had more than 500 applicants to get those four spaces.
Wow.
So it is that high expectation that everybody wants to go to the top school, and you do well and that kind of thing, and the connection and the network and that's so. Like as I said, for them they have to work hard, they have to do well. Whether to get into the university, you have to do well, and people pay big money now. Like teachers in Jamaica, they're running extra classes and so forth. It's not perfect. There's a lot. As I said, there's a lot because, as I said, with younger teachers, I don't think for some of them they are as caring as in terms of my time or as my set. So you get in there where the quality of teachers are different as a younger generation of teachers coming in. But I do say there's a majority who really pushes and wants every child to succeed, or want most of the kids to succeed. But as I said, with hard work, determination, and they are determined whether if a Jamaican parents or most Jamaican parents, if they think that teacher is not doing a good job, they go and find another teacher because that child must do well.
Must do well.
And that is how it is. We're not going to wait and no school and no teacher. You're going to find, I had my goddaughter was doing common entrance last year, and I went down to Jamaica, and I had him prepping her for the common entrance, and I was going somewhere else to my cousin who was a maths, because I saw she had deficiency in maths, you
Yeah.
know. So
Yeah.
it was wherever you're going to go, and up night, and it was until midnight, and we were going over the maths, and you know, and now, you know, now with YouTube, it's the sky. Some students
Sky's the limit, yes.
Yeah, they self study.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
and do that, you know.
Absolutely. So we have got coming up to the last 2 minutes of the show. So we're just going to wrap this up. But I just wanted to say thank you so much, Maxine, for coming and talking to us and explaining about the Cayman and Caribbean experience of teaching, what it's like. And what I get from everything that you say is what was most important is having that love and nurture and that desire to see the children that you teach succeed, to have the high expectation. And can you just give me that saying that you said about
Mr. Shirley, my principal at Michael, he said, when you go out, your job is to make those kids optimally rounded and productive member of society.
Love it.
Yes.
Say it again. Optimally rounded
and productive
members of society. And I can see that you embodied that in everything that you've spoke about in today. Embodies all of that. Says everything. I can't even find the words to explain, you know, because I just found...
Up you mighty race.
Exactly.
You can accomplish what you will.
There it is. Up you mighty race.
You can accomplish what you
What
will.
you
So
can,
we
yeah.
change. So we end with Garvey, you know, to think of that and to think that if we have these roots, then we can succeed. And the roots is to allow your children to know about the past, to strengthen them, so that they can stand, you know, and when it doesn't matter what storm come, they can stand. And that's why you have to teach them about Garvey. You have to teach them about you have to listen to what Bob sings, and half of what Bob sings is based on Garvey. So once you know that and you say the sayings over and over, they will learn them. And they will embrace it. They'll become empowered. This part of it is empowerment, so that nobody else has power over your mind but you.
Fantastic. And to me, that is a perfect way to finish today's show. So thank you, Maxine. Wonderful last words.
No, I just want to say thank you to my sister, Maxine Eldemire.
Had to get that in there.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Empower, educate. Empower, educate. Inspire, empower, educate. Inspire, empower, educate. Empower, educate. Empower, educate. Inspire, empower, educate.
Primary learning center, powering our children to climb the mountains across the sea, be the best that they can be. At the Primary Learning Center. Primary Learning Center.
Empower your children. Visit www.theprimarylearningcentre.org.
Primary Learning Center. Primary Learning Center. Primary Learning Center.
Check it out. Trust Me Radio.
The best in the city.
Trust Me Radio reaches your customers and as such is able to provide all your advertising needs. Or if you have an upcoming event, our DJs and MCs considers all event bookings. Please contact Trust Me Radio on 07508 524 673 or email us at trustmeradio@hotmail.com. Trust Me Radio, your community radio station.